Hey guys, so I want to talk about listening today. And when I say that, it kind of seems simple, but I've noticed that there's a lot of times that people don't have basic listening skills. They don't want to listen, they don't want to take time to hear what somebody else is saying. And it's something that's like nails on chalkboard for me. Um, and I'm also guilty of not listening properly as well. So I think the thing that hit me with this is that I was on a live the other night and somebody was talking and people talking over and people talking over. And it just really frustrated me to the degree of like, it's hung with me from last week until now. And I understand that everything that, if I'm talking, it's important to me, right? It's my thoughts, my views, my understandings, and whatnot. But in reality, if we listened to what others were saying, it would be the same. It's their thoughts, their feelings, their desires, or whatever they're sharing. And so the simplest act of just listening often does not happen. Whether it's your buddy, whether it's the radio station, whether it's a kid, um, no matter who it is, sometimes listening is just a struggle. And we need to change that. Okay. Now, let's go back to the basics. Listening. Actively listening means that you're paying attention, you're giving that person your time, you're absorbing what they're saying, you're hearing what they're saying, you're comprehending, you're processing it. It's a whole thing, right? Like we listen to the music, right? We listen to music and everything's fine. But when somebody's actually sharing something with you, it's because it's important to them. And I think a lot of times we just forget about you know, the natural listening skills. Um, and there's active listening and there's just listening, right? A lot of times I'm just listening to the radio. I'm not actively listening to it. I'm not, I'm just not. But if William's talking to me, I want to be actively listening. And I am sometimes the worst at this. He could tell you. He will be sharing something with me and I put my 2 cents in way before he's done. And so what that can do is in reality it could cause him to feel like I don't care. I don't care what his thoughts are. I don't care what he's feeling. I just don't care. Right. And I say that because he's done the same to me. Um, that's something that we both have had to work on because we both are those people that normally like talk and respond just to what the person's saying in the moment instead of listening to the full story. And that causes a lot of confusion and a lot of problems. But that's why I want to talk about it. Something so simple is so big. Um, I have a natural instinct to want to jump in and give my thoughts and opinions on it um, with him. Now, when I'm talking to clients, one of the best things that I do is actively listen. I listen to their cues. I listen to what they're saying. I listen to what they're thinking. I listen to what their goals are. I listen to what they're wanting, what their desires are. Like I actively listen with them. And I get so much more out of those conversations. And it helps them feel important. It helps them feel heard. It helps them, be able to trust and to be able to know that I'm their safe spot, right? And we need to do that better as humans, okay? Now there's some people that just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and I'll be like, yeah, 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 and I have to find a way to put myself into that position to have that conversation because they will talk your ear off because you're actively listening. So in saying that, that's why I think that this is very important. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot of skills. Maybe you're not interested, right? Maybe you don't want to hear what they're saying, right? There's a proper way to say, "Hey, that's cool, but I'm just going to go now," or I really don't care to talk about that. One thing that about me is politics. I don't want to talk about politics with you. I don't. right? But I'll listen for a minute, and then I'm like, okay, gotta go. Like I gotta check out on that because it's something that I don't feel I need to put my biased opinion on because it's my opinion. It's exactly what it is. It's my opinion. So when we go ahead and we don't allow people to talk about things, like if you were sitting here and you're like, cut it off, don't listen, what that would do is tell me that it's not important, right? Well, politics are important to me. It's just that I don't feel that I need to hear all of your political views and you don't need to hear all of my political views. So what I'd say is that's just not something I'd like to speak about, you know? And that honesty lets them know that, hey, she's kind of serious. But yet it lets them know also that I was listening to them to know what they were talking about. Another thing that I I hear a lot is that children are talking and saying so many things and parents are not listening. And I'm not telling you to let your child rule your world, but if your child is willing to sit down at a table and have conversation with you, why not? Why not? You'll be glad that you did if it's something that helps them. If it's something that's, you know, a situation to them, let them know that you're there to support that. Be their person, because if not, you're not going to hear anything. And then you're going to be coming to the therapist saying, my child won't talk to me. I have a lot of that. And in reality, it's not that the child doesn't want to talk to them. It's that at some point that disconnection was made and they feel less than important. And that's not okay. That's not okay. That's how we learn things from our children. That's how we learn what's going on in our schools and what's going on, that we need to work on protecting them and we need to be a better parent. That's where we learn that information. Listening is very important to these kids. And so it's important that you do put yourself to actively listening to what your child is saying. I am drinking a blue drink. My mouth is blue. I look like a Smurf, but that's okay. That's okay. Um, I think that there's a few things that we can do to just talk about that are important listening skills. Okay. And with that being said, why is it important to think about these listening skills? Because it's going to help you ensure that the other person knows that you're listening to them. Okay. So, 5 little things that we can do. We need to pay attention. Give the speaker, give whoever you're listening to undivided attention and acknowledge what they're saying. So when they're talking, I'll just use me and William. When he's talking about fantasy football, though it's not something that I'm into, I do want to actively let him know, okay. So yeah, this I understand that, right? I just need to give him acknowledging statements. Okay. Show that you're listening, because that showing that you're listening lets them know that you're presenting yourself to care about the conversation. Okay. So again, little bits of feedback are vital to show them that you're actually listening to them. And again, it will help that relationship and it will foster active listening. And provide feedback when needed. Okay. Again, it's just feedback. It's just your thoughts, your opinions, your feedback to whoever, right? So don't expect anything, but just provide them the support or the feedback they need. Here's one that's really, really hard. Defer your thoughts and opinions and your judgment against that, whatever they're talking about. So you want to tell me you're this political party. Don't deteriorate who they are just because they're that party. Don't don't put a judgment on them because of what they're telling you, right? Um because really everybody's got a reason that they are who they are. And basically, it goes to the point that Everybody has the rights to their own thoughts, feelings, and, just who they are. Everybody has that same ability. And then the last thing would be respond appropriately. Okay. With this is what I'm talking about with your kids. Okay. So Jimmy's sitting at the table and he's talking to mom while she's cooking, and she's just like, she's texting her friend, She's just not giving a whole lot of cues that she's actively listening. And he's like, oh yeah, so yeah, there was some drugs passed around, and she's like, right. And then dad that's been sitting at the table, he's like, what? There's drugs. And then she's like, what do you mean there's drugs? There's drugs. What do you mean? Like, then it creates a chaos, right? It becomes too much. To whereas we could have taken that situation and made it something better, like find out about what those drugs are, find out what your child knows about those drugs, find out the little things by just listening. Don't respond negatively, because if you respond negatively, it's going to put a damper in that communication. And now your child's not going to trust you to come home and tell you that little Peter is having issues and bringing drugs into school, because you just lashed out irrationally because Peter's bringing drugs into school, and Jimmy was just telling you about it. So your response is important. um it's also like in my line of work, it's very important that I know my responses. If I have somebody talking to me about, something that I don't believe in, or something that they believe in, or, somebody having sex, or somebody doing this, or whatever topic they want to talk to me about, because that's what they do. If I was like, ooh, my facial expression was to give them the idea that I did not approve of what they said and I passed judgment on them because of what they said, or I responded in a negative light, our relationship therapeutically would be busted. They generally probably will not come back and want to have large conversations about serious things if my face told them for the last 15 minutes while they were talking that I'm disgusted, disappointed, or not, that I'm judging them or anything like that. So it's important that we keep actively trying to show a piece of us in that communication that's not going to be negative. Okay. Especially in relationships where you want that growth and that communication. You want your child to talk to you. You want your husband to be able to talk to you, or your wife. You want, just whatever it is. And you want that conversation to happen. So we've got to make sure that we're actively listening to be able to do that. Right. And guys, I've listened to a lot of things that just really weren't my cup of tea. Right. But I've also gained things out of listening to people. Part of what I listened to the other night on a live was about, I don't know what they were talking about, but it made me, what I do as a person is I hear things, I listen all the time. And I took and I started researching what this person was saying. And lo and behold, I educated myself during that conversation. And it was the weirdest conversation, not going to lie. But the fact is that I found out why he was talking, and I engaged with him, and he really knew that I heard him, and it took me all of 3 minutes to listen to him and then respond and talk to him about this, and try to maybe give him my thoughts on it, my opinions, um but I didn't want to shut him down. I didn't be like, that's wrong. No, wrong, because that's not how we keep communication going. And so I know this has been a lot to say a little. I mean, it's just common knowledge. But next time you're thinking like, man, what did they say? What was that they said? What did they mean by that? Maybe we should have been actively listening and asking the right questions, engaging ourselves appropriately, whatever it needed to be, right? It's the little things that matter to people in the world today, believe it or not. We just want to be human with everybody. We want to be, respectful and kind, and to those that deserve it. And a lot of times, the ones that we're not listening to the most are the ones that deserve our full-hearted, listenings. they need us actively listening. So yeah, that's what I got with that. Um, so again, 5 little tips that I gave you there. Just try them out if you need to. And with that, I'm going to say thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back. Bye, guys.